Last year, I decided I had had enough of London. I had spent 3 years in London and in total 7 years in the UK. I was burnt out from my job, corporate job. My last vlog is actually live in tech, like working in tech vlog. Well, turns out I was extremely burnt out, and shortly afterwards, I decided it was time for me to go. I wanted to travel because I was 24 back then, and I kind of felt like I was really running out of time, and like I had to do something about it. So I realized I did have free will and I could actually do whatever I wanted to do, and I decided to travel. Of course, I wanted to go to Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Those are the kind of basic cities, but I also wanted to do other things. I don't know, I just wanted to go into nature and really disconnect from the city from time to time and explore different areas of Japan that maybe most people don't go to. So because of that, I of course planned everything around arriving to Tokyo. I spent a couple of weeks in Tokyo when I first got there, just exploring the city, getting used to the culture, and just generally kind of, settling in Japan. So after Tokyo, as I didn't want to spend a lot of money, and of course I had spent a couple of weeks in a hostel, which female hostels in Tokyo are quite cheap, or at least were last year, but still it is quite a bit of money if you're going to spend 2 weeks in a hostel. Because of that, I just wanted to save as much money as possible going forward. So I looked into woofing, which some people have talked about it online, but most people haven't. I feel like it's quite a well-kept secret. So in woofing, you're going into organic farms and you're helping the locals, you're helping the family that's hosting you. So you do maybe 5 to 6 hours of work per day. It really depends on the opportunity. And then you basically have food and accommodation for free. So it's kind of like an exchange. You also have usually 1 day per week free. You could negotiate it. I'm sure if you talk to them, to the farm that you're going to, I'm sure they could do 2 if you really needed to. But for me, when I was planning my woofing experiences, I was always thinking about, first of all, location. I really wanted to go to places that I wanted to visit, that I wanted to explore. And then I would also look at the activities that you would be doing and the family itself. Like for me personally, as a female traveler, I wouldn't pick kind of like a household with a single man, let's say, because I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So I tended to go for like families or just, women who owned farms, for example. So you really have to look at the activities that you will be doing. If it's kind of lifting heavy stuff, personally, I wouldn't be able to do that anyways. So I would rather do maybe some kind of picking up vegetables or helping with the kids. Some had families or some had even kind of alternative schools that you could help at. So I really made sure I looked at the activities that I would be doing, also how many hours per day I would be working, because it is kind of a job in a way, but you might think, oh, I'm on holiday, so I'm not going to be working much, but maybe they might come in and be like, you have to work 6 hours per day in the sun picking up apricots, and you're going to be like, this is terrible, I'm going to leave. So you really need to make sure you do your research. Some of them are way more chill. Depends on the season as well. So look into the season, but it says everywhere in each opportunity what you will be doing and how many hours are expected of you. So really look into that, it's super important. I picked one farm in Hokkaido because I really wanted to go to Hokkaido. I think it's my favorite part of Japan. I've not been much to the south, but I can say it's my favorite part of Japan for now. I also picked one in Mie Prefecture, which is, I think it's east of Kyoto and Osaka. And I had picked another one in Nagano, which was, I think it was apricot picking, maybe, but I didn't end up going because I was too tired, but I'll get into it later on as well. So I loved my first 2 weeks in Tokyo. Then I flew to Sapporo. I also love Sapporo as a city, also one of my favorite cities in Japan. And then I went to Asahikawa, which is kind of east of Sapporo, maybe northeast, I'm not quite sure. I'll put a map so you can see it. And then I spent a few weeks in Asahikawa as well, and I was able to do some hiking because it's very famous for hiking, and you will find foreigners in hostels that are just there to hike volcanoes that they have, which are beautiful. And again, I was staying in hostels the whole time, so I was just saving up as much money as possible. And then I went to Furano, which is an area that I really wanted to go to. It's famous for, I think it's flowers and mountains and just kind of nature. I loved it there. It was incredibly beautiful. I loved the area so much, but I'll tell you about the woofing experience now. I have some pictures here and there, but not too many, so I'll try to put whatever I have from that experience. So my first woofing experience was Probably the worst one that I had like the whole time. I only did 2, but in total I think I did like 4 weeks of volunteering, which is quite a lot if you think about it. So I did 2 weeks there. I was gonna spend 3 weeks, but I ended up changing it and I spent longer in Sapporo, which I loved anyways. So I was there with a French guy, I think a Dutch guy, and an English girl, and we ended up becoming great friends. Without them I could not have done it. So I'm so happy you get to meet such amazing people through those experiences. I think that's the main thing that you get through those experiences for sure. And I was in a beautiful house. I was in front of one of the very famous flower fields in the area. And I was in just like the most gorgeous, like you think of like Japanese nature and like anime, you know, cute little those TikTok edits of Japan. That was that. It was beautiful. The house was beautiful. I could see flowers, I could see mountains, I could see everything. It was not too hot because it was in July, so it was not too hot. And there was a cute cat, so I was happy. But the host was a bit insane. It was an old lady, and in the end, I kind of ended up loving her. Like she was a good person, and I know she meant good, and she was just really old and lonely. So she would just have volunteers that are like 20, they're 20 and they're just coming here and doing nothing. She was like obviously complaining about people not doing shit, which I understand, but at the same time, because of that, she was a bit bitchy with everyone else. So I had some like deep conversations with her, and she was just really frustrated with like people coming into her house and not really like having a good attitude. Like it's not about working 5 hours like non-stop, but it's just about showing respect. Like this is not your house, right? And you're also meant to contribute in some way. So she was a bit crazy. Yes, she was. Yeah, she would like, if we would be making beds, because it was like a farm but also guest house. We would be making beds and maybe she would be like, does it look correct to you? We would be like, yes. No, you never learn from what I tell you. Like some random stuff, I'm just not gonna take shit from like a random lady, and I'm volunteering and I'm in Japan. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna take shit. But it was just not that well organized, that program. And I think what you can do to make sure that this not happen to you is look at the reviews. Although the review for this lady were amazing, so someone's lying, but people also go through phases. Like it might not have been her best phase, you know. I still had a great fucking experience there because I was with great people in a beautiful place, and I would be riding bikes to get ice cream, lavender ice cream, or she would drive us to an onsen and we would spend the day there. I would be like fully naked with this random ass lady and my new English friend, and then we would eat ramen and take a nap and spend like 2 hours in the onsen with this random Japanese old lady. Like that's pretty awesome. So I had a great time anyways. But after a while I was pretty tired of the whole like I understand for her, it's her life, but for me, I'm just volunteering here for 2 weeks. It's not that deep for me. So I ended up leaving early. But as I was saying, what you can basically do to avoid that from happening is talking to them about expectation setting. So really asking, what will I exactly be doing? What would a day in the life look like? And really ask questions about maybe where will I be sleeping? You know, like is the food really included? Which for me it was. I'm not complaining about that. I was sleeping in an attic, but it was fine. I kind of loved it as well. It's fine. And yeah, just ask questions to make sure, you know. She could also not speak English, which I think was a huge problem, but you will realize that as you communicate with them before you go, if you really ask a lot of questions. I asked no questions, which is really bad because you're flying all the way to another country. You need to know what's gonna happen there. So just ask a lot of questions, and you're gonna be fine, hopefully. After this, again, I spent a lot of time in Asahikawa and Sapporo. I absolutely loved it. Again, Hokkaido, forever. I love that island. But then I flew to Osaka and I spent, I think it was 3 to 4 days in Osaka just on my own, visiting everything. I'm not a huge fan of Osaka. I don't know why. I think maybe it was the shock of like coming from maybe like the north where it was not that hot to like Osaka where it was extremely hot. It was not that full. Like I know people say like it's, you know, over tourism and stuff. For me, it was actually fine. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't love it as a city. Like I felt like there was not much to do other than like clubbing or like drinking or like nightlife. But I also didn't feel like it had a great nightlife. Like in my opinion, Korea has a way better nightlife than like Osaka. Like if you say Busan or Seoul compared to to Osaka. But yeah, that's just my take, but it was still gorgeous. Then I went to Kyoto, and a lot of people are like, Kyoto is not that cool, it's overhyped. I personally loved Kyoto. I think I spent maybe a week in Kyoto. I don't know why I loved it. There were no tourists there. It was end of July or early August, maybe because it was really hot, but there were no tourists, not many tourists for sure, but I just really loved it there. It's so beautiful. The red gates, I forgot the name, it's been too long, but the red gates experience, I fucking loved it. I can put a clip here, but I was sweating, I was like soaked, because for whatever reason I just decided I wanted to hike it in the shortest amount of time possible. I just wanted to run that shit, and I did, and I was just like soaking. But I loved it. I don't know, I loved the nature element. I loved that I could also see tourists. I know that sounds really weird, but I was like a bit like tired of being the only foreigner, and I was kind of like listening to Spanish because I'm Spanish. So I was listening to the people speak Spanish, and I was like kind of happy about it. So it was like a good reset for me to get a bit of my culture back, and I loved it. I loved Kyoto so much. Right after Kyoto, I went to my second woofing experience. So this was in Mie. I forgot the name of the town. I'll put it somewhere. But it was a family, and they had a farm, like an actual kind of like vegetable farm, and they even had rice plantations. It was really cute. The town was straight out of a freaking anime movie, straight out of like your dreams. It was beautiful. I'll also try to put pictures here, but it was beautiful. It was way too hot. It was always at that point, so it was really, really hot. So it was like, do you know in animes when they put like, when it's like the crickets and it's way too hot outside and people are like sweating and there's a fan? So when I arrived in that farm, there were already two French guys there, and then yeah, it was me. I arrived, and then we were three, which was pretty cool. Again, having volunteers really, really helps. Also, maybe ask before you go anywhere if there's going to be other volunteers, and maybe ask about the volunteers, because it's really important that they're like your age, or like in their 20s, for example, and it really helps with the whole experience. So definitely ask about that. And then immediately when I arrived, there were two kids, and it was just a Filipino and a Japanese kind of couple, which was super cute. And again, the place was stunning. We just had to wake up at 5 a.m., which I know, like for some people it might be a struggle, but trust me, it was so hot that if you didn't wake up at 5 a.m. and you actually like worked during the day, you would be absolutely dead. So 5 a.m. until let's say like 8 or 9, and then by 9 we were done. So it was great. Like I feel like by 10 I have pretty much the whole day to do stuff. Problem was, it was too hot. There was nothing really to do. Like I remember the bikes were broken, so we couldn't do much. But in this place, I spent the most magical moments of my life. I'm not even kidding. If you want to romanticize your life, do this. Go to a Japanese farm. Okay, it's free. It's literally free. You just need your plane tickets. It's free. And you're gonna have the most magical moments of your life, like I did. So we would work from time to time, and then we would just hang out. And even if we were working, it was fun because it was funny. They were extremely funny. We were just like getting vegetables, and then freaking frogs would be jumping around, like someone would fall. Like it was just really funny. And we also did like a few Japanese festivals. I remember like being in the like town hall of that little city. It was so cute, and they were teaching us like Japanese dances for their summer festivals, and of course we were the only foreigners, and then we would go there and everyone was wearing like yukatas, and it was just like, it was so beautiful. And then fireworks, I think I went to like 2 firework displays with the typical like, you know, food stalls and like all the Japanese people watching the fireworks in a random ass city. Not a city, like a village or something. I don't know. It was just beautiful. And I had the most just amazing moments, just like doing like barbecue and drinking beer, watching the Olympic Games. I remember that was happening then. And just like also like walking around the fields completely drunk and like trying to get home after the festival. It was just so cute and so beautiful. So I really recommend woofing to everyone. It might sometimes be tiring, but just follow your body. And if you need to leave, you can. You're not signing any freaking contract. Like if you're tired, you tell the person, I gotta leave, and you leave. And that way you will learn how to like stick up for yourself and communicate, which is super important. I ended up I forgot to say, but I ended up canceling my third woofing experience just because of that. I was just too tired. I was gonna go to Nagano. I need to go back to Japan to go to Nagano. It looks so beautiful. I'll try to put some pictures here. And it seemed like a quite demanding experience and quite similar to what I had just done, like actual farming. And I was really tired. So I just couldn't do it anymore. And instead of that farm, I went to South Korea. But yeah, after South Korea, I landed in Tokyo and I went to explore kind of places around Tokyo, and I was doing again like hostels somewhere else, coming back to Tokyo for a few days, then going somewhere else, getting a hostel there. And I feel like that part of the trip was almost my favorite because going to really random locations for 2-3 days was just so amazing. And also, pro tip, I left my humongous backpack with all my belongings in one of those like lockers in a random train station, and I just left everything there, and I put the essentials on my backpack, and I just left for 3 days to different places, which was amazing. I have it here because I will forget, but I basically went to Hakone, which I loved Hakone so much. I really recommend it. It's beautiful. I don't know if I have videos or pictures, but I'll try to put it somewhere here. And I also have a great hostel recommendation with an onsen. And I remember just having the coolest, like at freaking 11 p.m. I would go to the onsen like fully naked, and there would be like people, like girls from different nationalities, and we would all have like girly talks. And we're all naked, and some people are like French, freaking German, Japanese, like, and we would just have girly talks about everything. And that's so beautiful. I love that. Then after Hakone, I went to Fuji. I was in my hiking era, let's say that, because I had so much time. It's also so important to move as much as possible, because after traveling for 3 months, my mind was starting to get a bit bored and also overwhelmed with meeting people, learning, like growing to love them, and then, you know, saying goodbye was a bit hard. So I tried to keep active as much as possible, and I started to get into hiking, which was super cool because Japan is a great place to hike and start doing kind of beginner hikes. So in Fuji, I have the most beautiful pictures and videos of Fuji because it was beautiful. It was not like, I don't remember the name of the place. I'll put it somewhere. I really recommend that place. There's a really nice lake there where you can see Fuji from, and it's just a perfect place to hike Mount Fuji, and there were not that many people. So yeah, I really recommend that. And I also have a great hostel recommendation there. So also let me know if you need that. So I climbed Fuji. I might have some videos here, and it was one of the best experiences ever. And I did it on my own, and I did it in one day. I went up and went down in one day. I did wake up pretty early. I don't remember how early. There's a lot of information online on how you can do it in one day or how you can do it overnight. I know overnight is great for sunset and stuff, but I personally just wanted to hard try Mount Fuji, and I fucking did it, and it was insane. And I met some Japanese guys along the way, and we were just like, we couldn't even communicate. We were just like laughing at each other and having fun. I don't know, it was just like a great experience, and I really challenged myself. It was a bit hard, but it was amazing, and I really, really recommend it. Of course, be careful if you're not that kind of athletic or if you're not like that ready for it, but I had just been walking for 2 months and that was enough for me. But again, know what you're getting into, but I personally loved it. I forgot where I went later, so I had to search it up, but Nikko, apparently. I don't have many memories from Nikko. I'm sure it was great, I just don't remember where I was staying. And for me, like when I think of the place, I think of the hostel. Never mind, I just had a look, and actually in Hakone, I stayed in a really old hostel that was like owned by this guy who had a cute dog, and I had like my own solo room, but it was in the middle of nowhere. But anyways, so the experience that I just talked about in the hostel in Hakone is actually from Nikko. So I actually have that great hostel recommendation for Nikko, not Hakone. So now I remember Nikko. But see, from Nikko, like I mostly remember the experience with these girls in the hostel rather than the place itself. The place itself was gorgeous. I'll see if I have any videos from Nikko, but it was beautiful. I think I also did some hiking there, and you can also do kind of quick hikes around the area. But personally, I preferred Hakone than Nikko, but Nikko was also pretty cool. And then I remember I went back to Tokyo and I went to, I think it's Enoshima. I'll correct it if I'm wrong, again, it's been too long. But Enoshima, I just took a train for the day, like I didn't stay there, but it was also amazing. It was so beautiful. It had great temples, it had a lot of touristy things, a lot of like sea related stuff, and also I remember the view of Mount Fuji from that beach. beautiful. I also had one of those deep reflecting moments there. I'll see if I can put some videos here, but that was gorgeous. And it was kind of like my last sunset before leaving Japan. Then I went back to Tokyo and I spent a few days there just grabbing souvenirs, kind of saying goodbye to honestly the craziest experience of my life. I had like, you know, when people say like romanticize your life, the whole trip was like romanticizing my life. Like at times it was hard, but hard in the way that movies are. You know what I mean? Like when they're struggling, when people are struggling in movies, that's how I felt throughout Japan. Like I feel like I was struggling, but in a romanticized way. And I was just struggling out of maybe being lonely or being tired or like, you know, having to carry my freaking huge ass backpack around. But it was just great. It was like everything you would want from life, you know, meeting new people, hiking, being with nature, visiting places, buying cute things. It was insane, and it really was not that expensive. I'll see if I can put how much I spent somewhere here, but most of the money was probably spent on hostels. Flights, of course, the flight to Japan itself was the most expensive, and then even the flight to Korea is not that expensive, and even transportation within Japan is also not that expensive. I obviously had to fly to Sapporo, but other than that, I took trains. Huge advice if you're broke. Why do people take the freaking Shinkansen all the time? And they're like, Japan is so expensive, I cannot afford it. Yeah, girly, because you're spending 100 euros on a one-way ticket somewhere. Well, everywhere. I went with like taking like the local trains. So yes, you can like, it can take you 2 hours with the bullet train, or you can take 4.5 hours to 5 hours on like using the kind of local trains. You might have to change sometimes, but if you're gonna spend 3 months traveling, solo traveling, or with people, you have time. You have time to spend 5 hours in local trains. And it's even more fun because you're seeing way more of the landscape, like really random landscapes. So I really recommend that. You save so much money. I saved so much money taking local trains. But yeah, most of the money was spent in hostels. And again, when I was woofing, which was I think in total 4 weeks, but I initially wanted to do way longer. I wanted to do 6 weeks, sorry. Then that was completely free. Like I spent nothing other than maybe the flight to Sapporo to basically, you know, to get there. But that's it.